Right, yes guys, hope you are all good, having a good day so far. We are hitting upper today, second upper session of the week, and this is my first one back from deload. My deload hasn't really impacted this session because I basically took it from Thursday last week up until the Monday, so the only session that I didn't do was my second lower session of the week. So it was only like a, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, like a 3-day long deload, which for me is all I need. I've done full weeks before, and I felt like it kind of did its job after the third or fourth day, and from that point I was just kind of not wasting my time, but I could have been back in the gym sooner and I didn't need to be out at the gym. And I love the gym, so I'd rather be in the gym more often than not, hence why I only took a shorter deload. However, that was needed because I noticed my body was pretty ruined at that point. Not ruined, I was just struggling when it came to my joints. I noticed my lift progressions were starting to slow down a bit, even some movements were starting to actually regress, and I got a bit ill beforehand. It was like a mild case of the flu, I guess, kind of that mixed in with the heat, a bit of heat stroke, and I just couldn't seem to shake the dodgy feelings, I guess you could say. So yeah, I thought it'd be best for a deload, well, a couple of days off, and then get back to it. And so far I'm feeling great. Yesterday's session was really good. Tuesday's session was really good. Monday's was a bit iffy. I usually find even if it is like a short few days rest, the first session or two just tends to go kind of shit, just because my body's kind of adjusted to not training. I noticed I tend to lose that, I don't know how to word it, like my ability to just push myself to the absolute extreme on each set. I sort of lose that pretty quickly if I don't do it like as frequently as I do it. So that tends to come back maybe 2 days after maybe I'm back in the gym, and from that point I usually can then string along another solid couple months of really good training. So yeah, that's the plan. Just keep cracking on, keep training the way I am doing, because I am making a good amount of progress at the moment. So let's just keep it going. In terms of what I got in the car today, it's literally just the usual upper session that I have been doing on this day for the past 6 months now, nearly. Yeah, longer actually, I think, longer than 6 months. It's going well. The goal is just to keep progressing these compounds: the prime incline, the gym leg go overhead press, the prime chest supported upper back row, and then all my isolations as well. I have actually increased the amount of sets that I'm doing on the prime chest supported upper back row, because I did notice that my upper back volume was a little bit less than pretty much every other muscle group, which was just an error when it came to programming on my part. So that has been rectified. I've added an extra set onto this session, and that's pretty much all I need for now. If you ever do want to increase your training volume, I wouldn't just add loads of sets at once. I would literally take it maybe 1 set per week. That's pretty much enough to give you that extra stimulus that you're looking for. And only do this if your lifts have been increasing. If you are noticed that your lifts are stalling, or especially if they're regressing, do not add any more training volume. If anything, you actually might want to pull back at that point. But I'm fresh out of a deload, feeling pretty good. I noticed that my upper back movements have been progressing week on week without fail, really. So that gives me the green light to add an extra set in there. Why not? So yeah, I will catch you in the gym. Let's get it. Right, first thing I do when I get into the gym is I do my rotator cuff warm-up exercises on the cables with very light weight, just so I can get some blood into the rotator cuff, prior to moving on to the machine lateral raise, or on my other upper body day, the single arm cable lat pull down. But this session is a bit more of a chest and delt focused upper session, hence why I am starting with the lateral raise. And all 3 sets that I did on here felt very good. They felt a lot more controlled than I have done them previously in the past. And I did get the same amount of reps that I did last week with the same weight, but because it felt better, because they were more controlled, and because I was able to keep more tension on the delt and I used less momentum throughout, that is a progression which I am very happy with. When I am doing a lateral raise, whether that is through cables, using the cuffs, or on a machine, a few cues that I tend to run through my head is trying to point my pinky finger up towards the ceiling as I'm like getting towards the lockout position. Well, getting towards the top of the rep basically. That is going to keep more tension on my side delt as opposed to it falling onto my front delt, which is very easily done, especially when the as you approach the end of the set when it becomes more difficult and you're approaching failure, it's very easy to let it slip and sort of just shrug it up or shift the tension onto your front delt, which does tend to be stronger than your side delts because your front delt is a bigger muscle and it also gets trained through any of your direct chest presses or overhead presses, so it will be a little bit stronger as a result. As I start the set and as I start each rep, I'm actively trying to push my knuckles down towards the floor, and as I initiate each rep, I'm trying to drag like the side of my hand against like an imaginary wall next to me, and that is gonna not fully prevent, but it's going to help prevent my traps taking over the movement. It's going to help keep more of the tension on the side delt. And then this is a cue that I tend to do with pretty much all of my movements now. I like to try and take a mini pause in both the lengthened range, aka the bottom of the movement, and the shortened range, which in other words is the top of the movement. At least it is with any sort of chest press, lateral raise, majority of pushing movements. Now, pausing in either range is going to be beneficial for a few different reasons. One reason is so that you can kill any momentum, which means that you are using the target muscle when you are doing the reps. It's very easy to get psyched up and try and chase as many reps as you can, so letting the eccentrics speed up a touch, sort of bouncing out the bottom of the reps just to get some extra reps. By doing this, you are taking tension off the muscle, which is not what you want. You want to be keeping it as basically as difficult as it can be on the muscle. That's the difference between training for bodybuilding and physique development purposes and training for powerlifting and I guess weightlifting purposes. If you are training for bodybuilding purposes and to actually develop your physique, you probably want to be making the movements as challenging on the target muscle as you can do. However, if you are training for powerlifting purposes or for the sole reason of moving as much weight as you can from A to B, you're going to want to shift your body positioning so that you're in positions where you're more mechanically advantaged, which in simple terms just means where you can lift more weight. And you're going to want to try and recruit other muscles to help support that exercise so you can lift more weight. Take the barbell squat for example. If you were training for powerlifting purposes, you would want to take more of a low bar stance, aka shift the barbell lower down your back. That way you can hinge your hips back further when you are doing the movement and engage more of your glutes. And as a result of that, with some practice of that specific technique, you will be able to shift more weight than if you were to do it like a bodybuilder. Now, if you were to barbell squat like a bodybuilder, you would take a narrower stance so that you can minimize the amount of glutes that you are engaging and place more tension onto your quads. You would also aim to sink the squat as deep as you can. That way you can get more range of motion out of your quads. However, squatting this way will mean that you will be moving less weight, so that's why powerlifters do set up that exercise differently. Right, circling back to my own session here, the previous exercise that was shown was the prime incline press. Now, I had the same amount of weight on there as I did last week, and I also got the same number of reps, and usually I would be pretty pissed off about that. However, watching the videos back and based off how I actually felt in the moment, it was significantly more controlled on the eccentric, and it was also a lot less wonky. My glutes didn't come off the bench anywhere near as much as they did in the week prior, and my stronger arm didn't finish the rep significantly faster than my weaker arm, which was also the case in the week prior. However, with the Gymleco overhead press, it wasn't too good. It did feel more controlled than last week. However, I still didn't get the last rep on each of them that I wanted to get. So same weight, same reps as last week is what it is. We'll just get it again next time. The reps that I did do did feel like they were done at a better quality though, so I'm happy with that. But I definitely did slightly crash out after my second set on there because I was fuming that I did not get that 8th rep, which I have been chasing down. After that, I moved on to the pec deck, and people who have watched my channel since it's started pretty much will probably know why I am doing the pec deck the way I'm doing it. But if we've got any new viewers watching this video, the reason that I'm not holding on to the handles is simply just down to the fact that in the past, when I have done it normally, where you hold on to the handles, I have experienced some shoulder pain, which has disrupted my ability to take the sets truly to muscular failure, as opposed to just having to stop due to pain. Now, if you're having to stop the sets early due to joint pain, that is not going to be anywhere near as conducive to muscle growth as taking a set to true failure without having to stop due to pain, obviously. So I played around with my setup a little bit in terms of the height of the seat, the position of the handles on the machine, and I actually watched Ganabolic set up this pec deck in a similar sort of fashion, except he had the fat grips on his forearms or elbow, can't remember exactly where, as opposed to elbow sleeves, because I don't have any fat grips in my gym bag. And he was holding on to like little balls so they can fully recruit his chest fibers. And unfortunately I don't have those either. However, I do have some wrist straps that I can roll up and use as a similar alternative. And as a result of setting it up this way, I can take all 3 sets to failure completely pain-free, which is exactly what I want in order to build my chest. So yeah, to recap, 3 sets on pec deck. Each set I'm gradually backing down in terms of the load, and I'm also changing the resistance profile so that it biases more of the length and range, aka the stretch. Because as our muscles get more fatigued, they tend to lose strength in the shortened range first. So that's how I would manipulate resistance profiles, if you have the option to do so with machines like Prime machines. If not, just train really hard with good form and you'll be absolutely fine. Now after this, moving on to the first back movement, the single arm cable lat biased row. And I have slightly adjusted my setup on this exercise. I'm now placing the leg on the side of my working arm on the foot pad, and I'm placing the leg on the side of my non-working arm, not on the foot pad, just on the floor. Previously, I was placing both feet on the foot pad, whereas when I'm doing it now, it does mean that I can lift a little bit less weight. However, I do find that I am leaning back a little bit less, and therefore I'm keeping more tension on the lat. And I'm noticing that I can take the lat to failure without my form slipping as much, which is exactly what I want on this exercise. It's not an exercise where I'm trying to move as much weight as I can. This is an exercise where you want to keep your positioning pretty much perfect throughout the set. Otherwise, other muscles that are stronger in your back will try and take over as opposed to your lats. And trust me, it's very easily done. When the reps start to become difficult, it's very easy to start shrugging the movement. I do notice that it is a habit that I tend to do as I approach the end of my sets. But it is something that I've been working on a lot during this off season, and I have noticed my lats have responded quite well to paying more attention to that. In the past, I have definitely treated exercises like these as just grip the weight and move as much as you can. And my lats didn't really benefit that much from taking that approach, whereas this approach I'm taking now, where I'm trying to be as accurate in terms of placing tension on the lat as I can do, is giving me greater results, which is why I'm doing it. So that is something that I do encourage anyone who's watching this video to pay attention to. If you are noticing that you are getting really good results in a certain body part, try and think, what are you doing with that body part? What are you doing with the exercises that are targeting that body part? Are you being really controlled with them? Are you training them a lot harder than other body parts that maybe you're not getting the best results with? And make some changes to your plan based on that feedback. Maybe you need to train your arms harder than your legs because your legs are growing and your arms aren't. Maybe you're doing loads of sets for your shoulders, but you're not doing that many sets for your back, and as a result your shoulders are growing and your back isn't. In that case, you would probably need to adjust your training program, add more sets to your back, maybe take some sets away from your shoulders if you're trying to make them look more proportionate. Or in some cases, it could be the other way around. You might be doing loads of sets for your arms, and your arms might not be growing that much. They might be sore constantly, they might be under recovered, whereas you might be doing less sets for your chest and your chest might be growing at a really good rate. In that case, you would also need to adjust your training program to place less sets on your arms. Now, a lot of people may not necessarily know why they might not be making the progress that they want to be making with certain body parts per se, and that is where coaching comes into play. Now, if you are noticing that you're not progressing at the rate in which you want to be progressing, I would strongly recommend that you get a coach, even if it is just for a brief period of time. Maybe it's for 3 months, but if you can learn some habits and learn where you might be not messing up, but things that you might have overlooked that you simply weren't aware of, whether that's how hard you're training. A lot of people think they're training a lot harder than they actually are. That is where having a coach who can review your training clips and basically give you the feedback that you need is something that will be very beneficial for you, even if it is just for a short period of time. Now, after the single arm cable lat row, I moved on to the chest supported prime upper back biased row, which is probably my favourite movement for targeting the upper back. It's up there with T-bar rows. Now, I did 3 sets of the upper back row as opposed to the 2 sets that I have been doing previously. Reason being, that exercise has been progressing pretty much every week for as long as it's been in my program. And when I counted up the total number of sets that I do for upper back in the week, it was 5, whereas on most of my other movements, I was doing between 7 and 9. And this is just simply an error to my own programming. I should have placed more sets onto upper back. For the last couple of months, I could have definitely done more. So that has now been addressed by sprinkling in a couple of extra sets throughout the week for upper back. And this is important to me because I do want to build my upper back. I want it to look thicker in my rear double bicep and my rear lat spread. And I also want to have massive traps that poke out the back of my shirt, like you see guys with the ridiculous traps. Like I remember I was at Fit Expo a few years ago, and I remember Jordan Peters came in and he just sat down on a chair and you could just see his whole trap just poking through like a 6XL shirt or whatever size he had on. It was ridiculous. It was just showed me how big people can actually get. Mental. But yeah, finishing off with the tricep press down, and this is also one of those exercises where I've definitely dialed in my execution, and as a result my triceps have responded very well to that. In the past I've definitely been guilty of just trying to push the bar or whatever attachment I'm using down in any way, shape or form, whether that's using my chest, my front delts, not fully locking out my tricep, just shithousing it basically, just so I can get extra reps, which is not the approach that I've been taking this time round. This time round I've been really trying to just get the full range of motion, get the full contraction of my tricep, pause in either end and just get the most out of the movement. So that is something that I definitely wish that I started to implement a lot sooner than I did. However, you can't go back in time, you can only move forward, and that is the session wrapped up. Right guys, as you can see, just finished the session, just chilling in the car for a few minutes now just to gather my thoughts and make a little wrap up outro, I guess you could say. Yeah, good session, pretty happy with how it went. Obviously I covered most of it in the voiceover. Presses, I would have liked those to go up in weight or reps. However, given the fact my form was a lot better on them and I got a better connection with my chest and my delts, well, maybe not my delts, definitely with my chest on the prime incline, I'm happy with how it went, so can't really complain there. In terms of the single arm cable lat rows, I'm going to keep doing it how I did it today, with my just the one leading foot on the pad as opposed to having both of them on there, just because I feel like I lean back less and I can just keep more tension on my lat. Even though I did drop a rep or two on both sets, I felt like it was more accurate on my lat, which is what I want obviously with that exercise. I'm not just trying to shift as much weight as I can. So yeah, happy with that. Then the prime chest supported row, pretty happy with that also. First set upper rep, second set also upper rep, and a little 0.5 kilo plate, so very happy with how those went. Then the third set just up the 0.5 kilo plate, and I think if I've counted it right, I think I matched reps, if not went up one. I definitely didn't drop a rep, I think. So yeah, happy with that. Then all the other stuff, tricep press down went well, lat raise went really well, pec deck went pretty well with the new way that I say the new way, it's not really changed much. I'm just, instead of allowing my shoulders to come up like that when I'm in the stretch, I'm actively trying to keep them down, so that way I'm not necessarily placing my shoulder in a compromised position or putting unnecessary strain on my bicep tendon, because at that point there, if my shoulders are starting to come up like that, I'm not getting any more range of motion out of my pec. It's literally all through the bicep tendon basically. So yeah, I'm going to keep it like that going forward, because when I actually went to, I mean, I can still kind of feel it. I can't really fully contract my chest because my steering wheel's in the way, but I could feel it when I went to contract my chest after that, like all 3 sets on there. My chest felt lit up, which is exactly what I want after a pec deck. If you're feeling a pec deck in your shoulders and shit, you're probably doing something wrong, so bear that in mind. And that's about it, to be honest. Yeah, pretty happy with how that went. Let's hit the road, and I will talk to you about when I'm gonna next like cut down and diet, and how long am I going to keep bulking up for, my sort of like timeline over the next couple years, I guess. So I've been pushing my body weight up now at a very slow rate, a very suitable rate. Definitely not as fast as I've done it in the past, but that is a good thing, because in the past I have unnecessarily just gained body fat. And yeah, obviously I put on muscle at the same time, but I think I have honestly put on more muscle. Maybe not more, obviously, because when I did the dirty bulks in the past, I was in like my newbie gains phase. It was like my first like 2 years of training. Now I've been training over 5 years now at this point, so obviously the progress is not going to be anywhere near as fast as it was back then. However, I am still progressing faster than I have been in let's say the last off season, when I was not being as dialed in with my steps and stuff, because I just had less knowledge in general. So yeah, So yeah, the plan, well, the rough plan is to sort of keep bulking per se, or in a gaining phase for, let's say, the next, I'm going to say at least 6 weeks. My appetite is still in a pretty good position. I don't see any immediate need to cut the bulk short because I can't eat, because I can still eat. It's definitely not as high as it was in like the initial starting phase of this whole push up, obviously, because I'd just finished a show prep. I'd been dieting at that point for like 8 months nearly, or something like that. It's a ridiculous amount of time. So yeah, my body was still starving for a solid 2 to 3 months after that, which was good. I like being hungry, feel more productive, feel more mentally sharp, feel less sluggish, but it was being hungry for a long time. But anyways, I'm not cutting a bulk short because of appetite, because appetite is still in a pretty good spot. I'm not too fat just yet, which is also another reason why you would cut a bulk short, because it gets to a point where you basically put on that much fat that your body just opts to store those calories as more fat tissue, as opposed to glycogen, all the ways that you want your body to actually store calories, an excess of calories from being in a calorie surplus. So yeah, the plan is just to keep pushing up, and then what I'm going to do is, after maybe another 6 to 8 weeks or so of this, I'm going to just pull my food down a slight bit, maybe like 400 or 500 calories less on both training days and rest days. That should probably hold my body weight at whatever it is in that moment. And then what I'll probably do is do a relatively aggressive like mini cut, just not for too long, only like, let's say 7 to 8 weeks max. And the reason I'm doing that is so I can pull myself back down, pull off a good amount of excess body fat that I have gained over this whole bulking process, and set myself up in terms of how sensitive my body is to the insulin that it produces, and give myself a good runway for another like long push up, at least like 6 months or so, because next year I think that I'm going to compete again. I feel like I've put on a good amount of muscle at this point from when I had, well, I say at this point, I've put on a good amount of muscle so far. There's still obviously way more to put on, but I do back myself that I will be competitive enough to win the PCA natural finals in men's physique, junior men's physique that is, because feedback last time from the judges was I just need more muscle. I had the shape that they wanted. I was in one of the best conditions on the stage pretty much, so it was just a matter of get bigger in the right places, aka chest, arms, back, and just keep my shape and like midsection control, all the good things that I had, all the strength that I had on stage last time. So in order to compete at that show again, I need to qualify by doing a natural regional show, which there's plenty of them, but I don't want to be in a prep for as long as I was last time, because I just want more time prior to that to still be in a surplus and actually be growing tissue. So I'm probably going to do a later show in, let's say, July, August time, preferably August. So I'll have a look at the show list. I'm not 100% sure on which ones will be then. Obviously this will be 2027, but the show dates stay pretty consistent year on year with PCA at least. So the dates of the shows this year will be pretty consistent with what they'll be next year. So I can sort of plan my timeline around that. But I'd like to do obviously a regional show, hopefully try and win that if I can. I can't do first timers anymore, obviously, because I'm not a first timer. But a natural regional show is on the cards, and then I would like to do the PCA Manchester in junior men's physique. Reason being, it's my hometown. It'd be good to do it on home turf. Hopefully some of my mates might be able to get to it if they fancy spending the weekend watching that. And then I think if I've got my dates right, the PCA natural final should be about 2 weeks after that. And then after that I can get back into an off season, get growing again, hopefully. The goal is to win that show. Obviously I was 4th at it last time, and the guys who beat me will no longer be in juniors. I will be one of the older guys at that show, and obviously I'll have more muscle than I had last time, and my posing will be better. I say that now, it will be better than it was previously. So the goal is to win, straight up, and I back myself. I genuinely do believe I can win that show, and I can be the best junior PCA natural in the UK in that period. So that is the goal, and we will just do whatever it takes in order to win that in the meantime, which is put on more muscle in the right places, get better at posing, and enjoy the process, because that's what it's all about. So yeah, anyways, no physique update in this video because I had to get out the gym quickly because it was closing. If my family have gone to bed, I might hit some poses in my kitchen, I'll show that, but if they're still up, I'm not going to do that because they don't want to get in the YouTube videos. So yeah, anyways, hope you all have a great rest of your day, morning, evening, whatever time you're watching this, and I will catch you